My name's Dwyer, if you don't know me. And these are just a couple patterns that I taught at a class a couple years ago. And the class was called Stripes Interrupted. And I made a cast-on bonnet out of every one. And what I was shooting for was just ways to make stripes more interesting instead of just the same stripe all the way through the sock. You know, how could I disrupt the stitches? And so what I'm going to show you today are just a couple ways that you can make a stripe more interesting without using a ribbon, without using anything really special. This is one of the pairs of socks that I did. I don't know if you can see from that far away, but it's the bottom of the foot is just a straight stripe, but the top you can see it's kind of a wavy, which is why it's called the wave stitch. I actually got it off the internet from a site whose name I don't remember, and they called it Kick in the Pants, which I didn't think was a very descriptive name. So you can pass this around if you'd like and look at it. And you don't have to do it down the top of the foot. I just did. This is some of the unique yarn that Erlbachers are selling now, and I did the same thing, and it's really subtle, but same way. This one has Lycra in it. If you're wondering why it feels funny, it's got Lycra. And then a cautionary tale. I thought this will work perfect. This is a wide stripe, but then it's got that skinny stripe in between. And what happened is it turned the skinny stripe into little dashed lines. It didn't work. So I brought them it's a cautionary tale, but you lose the wave. You just don't have it. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And there's no like start at 3 o'clock, start at 9 o'clock, whatever. You just start cranking. And when if you do a hung hem, then you start a few rows after that. You're going to rib the top, start a few rows after that. And what you're going to do is, okay, I'm on a gray stripe right now. I'm going to knit until the color changes. See if you can see it changing. See it changing to green? This pattern works best on a wide stripe. Okay, it's kind of coming down. So now when it's almost here, I'm going to just do lift 3, 3 down, 3 up, all the way around. And then we're going to knit one time around. And you're going to make this design every time the color changes. And it doesn't matter if you're at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, any o'clock. You're just going to start the pattern every time the color changes. So this time I started right here. So I'm going to go around as I'm reaching it. I'm going to push these 2 outside ones down and do that all the way around. And if you look at the little diagram, it shows this. The first line has 3 up, 3 down, all the way around. That's what that means, tall ones, short ones. 3 up, 3 down, all the way around. And when you come around, then you're going to push the 2 outside ones down. I just go far enough that I could advance. Now I've got just that center one up from those that I had raised. One time around, coming up to it, push it down. And now there's no counting in this pattern other than the 3 up, 3 down. Because now I usually like to pull down when I'm knitting those tuck stitches just to make sure they really knit. Now I gotta wait for the color change again. See the color changing? Yeah, I think it changed to a brighter green. So I like to make sure I don't lift the same 3, the same 3 up, same 3 down 2 times in a row. So I'm going to kind of reach back under here and make sure it's not in the exact same place. 3 up, 3 down. This is a lot easier when nobody's watching. I just put my finger over 3 and then lift the next 3. So I'm not actually counting, because your brain can do 3 stitches without having to go 1, 2, 3. your finger knows when it's got 3 needles. Okay, again, I'm right here, come around, push the 2 outside ones down. And I don't push them hard down because you want it to actually knit. So it's most of the way down, just so it'll catch and knit. Sometimes you'll have yarn that it's really hard to tell when the color's changing. Like this one went from a light green to a darker green, kind of a mid green. That was a little harder to see, but you know, if you miss one, nobody's going to notice that because the whole thing is kind of doing this. Okay, see, and I didn't pull down there. And I didn't bring anything to fix a stitch either. No, that's okay. Just remind me, pull down, because I know better. Whenever you're doing tuck stitches, it's a good idea to pull down. I think I did that wrong, but that's okay. It's a demo, and I'm just going to do it for a few inches, and then we're going to go to the other one. Okay, watch the green come around. I don't know what color comes next. It actually kind of looks like it changed to another green, but we're going to wait for the next color. Come on, blue.
Did you put weights on?
I have a stem weight. Yeah, I have a stem weight. Okay, we're going to just go a little farther. Now, well, the tricky thing is if you decide you want to do it on the top of the foot, you have to decide kind of which needles about you want to do. And the color change is going to happen in the back a lot of times. And so you're just going to start your pattern when you get to the front. But you don't want it to be the same 3 needles raised on top of each other, because then the whole thing will just, it won't look quite right. So just, you know, one time, scoot a stitch or 2 one direction or the other. Or if you, because you have fewer needles, if you only leave 2 in between the 3 up ones, that's okay. You're not going to see that. The socks I passed around, some of those only had 2 stitches in between when it was on the top of the foot. Because when you're working on just that short bit of needles, you know, if you want the pattern to kind of, the waves to be in different places, you're going to end up being like close to one end. So if you kind of go over the needles you were planning to do, no one will ever notice that. It's just a very subtle pattern, but I think it's rather pretty. And when I first saw this wide stripe yarn, I wasn't real thrilled about it. And then I did this with it. I made it for somebody else. And it's like, oh, I wish I would have kept those, but I made them a much smaller size than my feet, so I had to give them away. Okay, I gotta remember where I started here. I think it was here. Now, if you have trouble remembering where you started, that's very common. Oops, I forgot to put those 2 down. No big deal. I'll just do it this time. But anyway, that's all you do. Just every time you come to it, it doesn't matter where you are in the cylinder. That's your start place. And then it's just those 3 steps. You knit 3. With 3 up, you knit 1 round. Then you push the 2 outside ones down and knit 1 round, and then you push them all down, and then you knit till the color changes. Do you have any questions? I'm going to switch to a more pronounced stripe and show you the dominoes. I think the dominoes is fun. I'll advertise for them. This is from, I Gotta make sure I'm right. Freckled Whimsy. Have you ever tried their stripes? I like to dye my own yarn, but I don't do multicolored stripes. That's just beyond my ability, or beyond what I want to deal with. And they make some really pretty ones. I'm just gonna get a little bit cranked. Okay, on the dominoes, it says any cylinder divisible by 4. Now you can change this number, but it'll change the width of your vertical stripes. It'll change the width of the dominoes. So the basic one, the one to learn with, is 1 up, 3 down. I always start things at 9 o'clock. It sounds weird, but I'm kind of self-taught, and it's been too long and I'm too old. I don't want to relearn. So I start everything at 9. Go ahead and start at 3 o'clock like everybody else does.
Jan, are these the dominoes?
No, I could show you the dominoes. Can you see the diagonal lines? Yeah, hold it, try and get it straight and see that they're diagonal. Let's pass those around. This one I think is wider. It might be like 4 up, 1 down. I'm not sure what it is. There is a color pattern with a lot of my pictures, and they're labeled what they are on csmsupplies.com, and it's free. This one, it's kind of hard to tell. When you have them in front of you, you'll be able to. The dominoes are leaning different directions on the 2 socks. Can you see that? One's leaning to the left and one's leaning to the right. And here, Anita.
What kind of, on your socks here, do you do a red?
You can do whatever you want for the top.
What kind of?
Selvage?
Yeah,
I always use Lana's.
okay. What is that?
It's where you have start with every other needle out. You put your ribber on, or you knit 3/4 of a round, and then you put the ribber on and lift those, the bars where the empty needles were, and put them on, lift them with your ribber needle, and then put them into the ribber. If you need me to show you how to do that, talk to me when we're back in the room. Anyway, I tried making the dominoes lean different directions. I thought, can I go a zigzag? And this is all the yarn I had left, so this is all the more zigzag you get. But it's kind of fun. So anyway, you can see the pictures, 1 up, 3 down, and it says at the beginning, knit 3 rows like that. So let me finish getting the. And we're gonna knit 3 rows. 1, 2, coming up, it's 3, and I'm gonna push it down. And it shows with all the needles down, it says knit 1 row. That's in that top rectangle, it says that. 3 rows with the 1 up, 3 down. But now, what do you notice about the second row? It's not in the same place. It's a traveling tuck stitch. And this is why everybody has, will get one of these little stitch markers. Okay, wherever you start, like I started at 9 o'clock, I'm going to put a little pin marker there. I'm not going to close it, just stick it in there so I know that is number 1. Okay, let me finish going around. Again, when you knit those tuck stitches, you'll be a lot happier if you pull down. Okay, so I'm going to move 1 over. Now that's my number 1, so I'm going to move the pin and put it as close to the needle as you can get, because it gets farther down and it's hard to tell which needle it goes to. So 1 up, 3 down. Okay. And it says knit 3 rows, 1, 2, coming up on 3, so I better push them down. I have to move forward so I can get the rest of them down. And I'm going to knit that row once. Now I'm going to move the needle or the little marker again to the 3rd needle. And that's the one that's up. See, it's an easy thing to do. You lift needles, knit 3 rows, put it down, knit 1. It's just you do have to keep track of where you're at.
Jan, do you have any more copies of the pattern?
They're up here. No? Yes, they're just not cardstock.
That's fine.
If somebody took the last of the cardstock,
That doesn't have to be cardstock.
hand me that bag. We've got. That's okay.
We'll find it later.
Oh, here they are. Some of the copies are better than others, but there should be both copies. Go ahead and hand those out. And pick through them because some do look nicer. So 1, 2, 3. And contrary to the last pattern, we don't care when the stripes begin and end, when the colors change. We're not paying attention to that. We're just doing 3 rows with those needles up, 1 row with them down, and then move your marker over and do it again. See, I can't tell where that one was. I think it's here. Yeah. See, it really is important to keep that as close to the needle as you can because it's hard to see where I'm supposed to be starting. So my needle number 1 just keeps moving every single time. Eventually needle number 1's going to be over here, and then it's going to be at the top of the thing, just until you're tired of making them lean and go around. When you think, oh, my sock is long enough, then that's when you end the pattern.
I don't know, this might be too confusing, but it looks like you have 3 needles up on one side and on your cylinder. On your cylinder,
Oh, you know what? You're right. I was thinking of the last pattern.
okay.
Oh, geez. Thank you. Okay, that's gonna put me off, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. It's gonna make me off. You know what? We're just not gonna worry about this too much. Actually, I can fix it over here. I'm just gonna have, because I'm not gonna save this. I'm gonna rip it back out. But it's supposed to have been that one up. What's that one doing? There's another stitch that didn't knit. See, it's a lot easier when nobody's watching. Okay. I usually do this when I'm alone in my studio. No interruptions. Till my husband walks in and says, hey, and I hit the ceiling, and because I was there alone and I had no idea he was coming. I have a bicycle bell outside my studio, and he's supposed to ring it when he comes in. Somewhere here I got off, and I don't know where. Just gonna leave that down. 3, 3, 3, 3. Oh, right there. Where'd it go? Sorry about that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So if you want them to do, go one way then the other, then the other.
Okay, the way you do that, this traveling tuck stitch is going, that would be counterclockwise around the cylinder. Well, if you move your stitch number 1 marker clockwise, it's going to tip the other way. And if you say, okay, I'm going to do this 4 times, you're going to probably want a piece of paper beside you, so you go 1 and do it and get 4, and then the next time you're going to start moving back the other way, and then the other way.
And then you just,
And
it
it
just goes to the right.
And then you really will get the lean.
And depending how long you want it.
There we go.
And can you mention what's the most impactful, what's the best yarn for each of these 2 patterns?
These 2 patterns, the domino will work with anything, it'll show up with anything striped. If you do a solid color, you're not really, you just see a little bit of it, but it doesn't really show up. Stripes are the best for it. And, that can be Fair Isle stripes. That could be, regular stripes. If you download the pattern from CSM Supplies, I have multiple ones that I show, like 1 up 4 down, 1 up 5 down. I don't remember which other ones I did, but it changes the look completely. The reason I like to demo this instead of just hand you the pattern is because people think that, oh, I'm going to do this 3 times and then I start over again. No. You just keep going. This number 1, next time will be over here, the next time will be here, the next time here, the next time here. It just keeps going. And I think it has a really neat effect. I have never done it down the top of the foot because that gets confusing where you start because you don't have anything coming up to it. This, like I said, this was a part of the Stripes Interrupted class. There's actually a couple patterns in here, or a couple patterns shown that the directions are not in here because they are purchased patterns and I can't share those. But the rest of them are all in here. And there's pyramid stitch. Anybody done pyramid stitch or mini pyramid stitch? There's one called Leaning Diamonds, I think. And anyway, there's a lot of different ones. And I made a bunch of copies because people have been asking me for them. And I will have at least a dozen copies of the whole class from 2 years ago sitting at my table back there. And all I ask is $3 donation for just making copies and everything. And there's one of those pins with it. And they're just there until they're gone. I have a couple of the other patterns that are in there. I think I could show it here. Oh, you'll do it. This is, we call it the raspberry stitch. And you can see this one was a stripe, just a very narrow stripe. Up here, you'd never guess that was a stripe. It doesn't look striped at all, but it's a really nice texture. And I just did that with a hung hem. You don't have to know how to rib. And that again is tuck stitch. It's 2 up, 2 down. And it tells in the instructions, how many rows to do. And then the next time you move needles, it's the opposite. Whatever was down is now up. Thank you. And this is it done just on a solid or semi-solid. And again, it's just texture. And because it's a tuck stitch, that means when you have needles up, it doesn't knit those needles. So you can see there's a lot of needles that won't be knit as it goes around. So it kind of compresses the sock this way. So if you normally knit a sock that's 100 rows, it's going to take more than 100 rows to get to that same size sock. I tend to wear my socks short. That's why all these are short. And another tuck stitch. Oh, and I can tell you the story about the raspberry stitch. The reason it's called the raspberry stitch is because I was at 2 different crank-ins where Deb Oswald showed a lot of stitches. Like she had this pair of raspberry colored socks and she said, oh, these are my raspberry socks. And she didn't remember what the name of the stitch was. She told me how to do it. And so I wrote it in my little book, Deb's Raspberry Socks. And now they've kind of become a raspberry stitch. I don't know, but that's a fun one to
Can I
do.
ask you something? You said 2 up and 2 down. How many rows of that and how many did you also?
It's in this pattern. I don't know off the top of my head. I always have to look it up.
I'll look at it.
And then this one is, it's kind of an alternating tuck stitch. So it makes this interesting little design. And I've heard it called different things, but usually it's called the pyramid stitch. Here's one that was even done down the top of the foot on a, was that one a stripe? No, that one was not a stripe. But this will kind of mess with a stripe too and make interesting things with it. And then there's also in there, there's a directions for a mini pyramid, which is just, you know, done on fewer stitches, a lot more up and down with your needles, but I guess that's it. But it's a really highly textured pattern and it looks really cool.
Do you use light thread in yours?
Sometimes, this last one coming through, that's got Lycra in it. You can kind of tell looking at it, it's got Lycra in it. I think a couple pairs.
But it doesn't interfere with what you're doing, it's in there or not in there.
No. I guess if somebody else wants a nice copy, they can have my copy, because I don't need it. So if somebody has a paper one and wants a cardstock one.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I could,
Does it
okay.
affect the width around?
Does it affect the width?
Yeah.
A little bit, but tuck stitches, like the pyramid stitch will pull in some. The dominoes really doesn't seem to do much. I'm gonna take this off just so if you could want to see what this ended up looking like. And we only did a few rows. Come on. Thank you. You can see the waves and the wave stitch. And you can see the starting to bend of the stripes for the domino stitch. It's very impressive if you get about 4 inches or more, because then they just lean so nicely. I really like it. I'm going to rewind this stripe one, the small stripe one, because I don't want to waste any of it. You know, I want it for a pair of socks. The green I have a whole coat of, so I'm fine with that. Anybody have any other questions?
What book is it that you said had all the patterns?
Pardon?
You said that it was a book. Yeah, but which one?
I don't, it's not a book. It was this class I taught,
Oh.
and I have the handout, and as long as they last, it's just $3 a piece just for printing them out and,
Okay, is that your name?
pardon? Yeah, I mean, if you have money here, that's fine, or I'm gonna put it back at my table. I'm back in the corner I'm the one that has the covers. Yeah, I think I have at least a dozen. And everybody can have a pin. So if you want to try the stitches, you know, come up and just pick a little pin marker. And then I just store these with my needles, whatever you store your needles in, then they're always available. Anything else? Oh, thank you.